Coming up on today's Locked On Dodgers, breaking down and previewing the big NLDS matchup against the Giants, seeing what's up and how can the Dodgers beat them and what do the Dodgers need to look out for. So that's what we're talking about. Keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Vince Samperio, Chavez Ravine Fiends here, and this is Locked On Dodgers. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. Jeff Snider of Baseball Central, my usual co-host, won't be in the building today because he had to drive all the way back from California to Utah, and a day of driving is pretty draining. So I told him I'd take this one, and we're going to talk about the Giants. So it's not like I'm going to have anything to not talk about, and I was glad to help out and help a weary Jeff. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about we're going to preview the Dodgers-Giants series. We got a couple quotes here from Dave Roberts, an update on Max Muncy, and then just, kind of looking at how the Dodgers match up with the Giants. Obviously, they played each other 19 times during the season, and there's reasons to feel good. There's reasons to be a little worried, but overall, I feel pretty comfortable about this series. But before all that, just a reminder to subscribe to Locked On Dodgers on YouTube, to subscribe to Locked On Dodgers wherever you get your podcasts, free and available on both of those things. So let's get into it. Real quick, some updates. Max Muncy, they basically said that his elbow needs to be stabilized for at least a couple more weeks, and then they can kind of see where it's at there. He met with Dr. Nia Elatrash, I believe, and everything was fine to a certain extent, other than the fact that he can't move it. I saw his elbow up close and personal during at the wild card game, and yeah, it's still very swollen. He can't move it. He's in the immobilizer. Although when he did come out after the locker room celebration, he wasn't in the immobilizer, but he still had it immobilized himself. I don't think he can move it. And for him to come back and for him to get that range of motion, the way that swelling looked, it's going to take at least a week just for the swelling to get down, probably the other week or so to get range of motion. There was, not ligament tears, but ligament damage. So it appears that Max Muncy definitely won't be around for the NLDS. Honestly, I would put him out for the NLCS if the Dodgers get that far, and the World Series would be a faint, distinct possibility. But even then, he wouldn't have swung a bat in a couple weeks. And as good as Max Muncy is, it might be better to have someone that's been there if they get that far. But before they cross that bridge, they gotta beat the Giants in the NLDS, and that was really the only thing that came out. The Max Muncy update. Dave Roberts did mention that they're going to take 12 or 13 pitchers on the roster, which makes a lot of sense. I have a feeling they'll go with 13, have that extra arm, be ready to go. They don't really have the need or the reasoning to move around a lot of the position players. Albert Pujols will be coming off the bench. Gavin Lux likely coming off the bench, and then depending how they handle the other situations, Chris Taylor, Austin Barnes coming off the bench, and they'll have one more person. But the other part is that Dave Roberts basically said that Bellinger will be the center fielder, which means Matt Beatty remains the prime guy to play first base, especially with the Giants throwing two right-handed pitchers in games 1 and 2 in Logan Webb and Kevin Gausman. So it seems like the wild card lineup will probably be the same lineup the Dodgers use. I hope that Austin Barnes doesn't get a start in this series. Will Smith is more than capable of catching at least 5 games in 7 days. So I don't feel the need for Austin Barnes to catch, but we'll see what happens there. But it seems like they're going to roll with the same lineup, and that's a good thing. The lineup, although it only put up 1 run, this lineup had been capable up until they faced the Cardinals on Tuesday. They had scored 8 or more runs in 5, 6, 7 games in a row. So the offense is still capable of scoring. they've gotten to Logan Webb kind of this season. They've definitely gotten to Gausman. And then once you get past them, you get into DeSclafani. And I think Alex Wood is their fourth starter, who the Dodgers have got to as well. So for the most part, it's going to be the same thing. And that's kind of where I want to start, where the Dodgers offensively can kind of get things going and how things are going to be. And it goes to kind of what we saw in the wild card game. Cody Bellinger got on base 3 times, but 2 of the times he stole second base. It was a little bit interesting that Trey Turner reached base a couple times and didn't try to steal base. But I think the Dodgers are going to try to be aggressive. Buster Posey is like Yadier Molina. They got good, very strong, accurate arms. The Giants pitchers, from what I remember, nobody takes too long to get to the plate. But I do think if they come out in game 1 or game 2 or maybe both, and there's some low-scoring affairs, and the Dodgers are in a situation where they kind of need to finagle some runs, I think the Dodgers might open up the run game a little bit. And honestly, it's a good thing. You risk obviously getting somebody out, but it's also something that can help you out, as we saw with Cody Bellinger. Even though he would have scored no matter what on the Chris Taylor home run, Chris Taylor in the interviews after the game said that it just helped a little bit because early you saw his first swing. He swung out of his shoes out of a slider that was almost in the dirt. But he said when Cody Bellinger stole second that he just knew he needed to hit a single. It changed his approach, changed his mindset. Although if Reyes had thrown that cement mixer slider, it didn't matter if Cody Bellinger was on first base or not. Chris Taylor would have hit that out regardless. But it is a different change in mindset where you can be like, okay, a base hit will get it done. And as we've seen from the games that they had, especially the ones in early September, not counting the Walker Buehler fiasco, but the 2 games, runs were hard to come by. And the Dodgers, the Giants pitching is pretty good. They got a pretty strong bullpen. They don't have anybody that's ridiculously unhittable, but they have a lot of guys that are very solid, very good. And overall, as a team, they're one of the better bullpens in all of baseball. So for the Dodgers to come out and attack, I think they need to be on the attack, and I think they need to be aggressive and come out and see what they can do. And like I said, steal some bases. I still don't recommend bunting, but the things that they can do, the things that they can control, looking to put the ball in play, I think they can handle that. And taking runs as they come and trying to get as many runs as possible. Obviously, the more runs you score, the better chance you have of winning. But in a game where you might play for the big inning, or Dave Roberts, there's ways of playing for the big inning, not taking chances, not playing theoretical small ball or things like that. I think the Dodgers might take the route of, if we get a chance to put a guy in motion that we think is very capable of stealing this base against, whether it's the pitcher, the catcher, whatever the situation, the count, I think they're gonna try to go after that. I think they're gonna try to utilize their speed. They have Trey Turner, Cody Bellinger looks good, and they have a sneaky guy. I mean, AJ Pollock got hurt last time trying to steal in San Francisco, so maybe not AJ Pollock, but they have guys that are capable of stealing bases. Even Mookie Betts, he's starting to look spry and not held back by the injuries that he had earlier this year. So I think the Dodgers are going to try to find ways to get guys in motion in order to score runs. Now, they could not and just come out and slug the ball, but kind of what we've seen especially these first 2 games in San Francisco, the Dodgers don't really hit home runs in San Francisco, not just this year, but in general. I mean, I can hardly remember, well, at least right-handed hitters. I remember Jock Peterson and Max Muncy obviously hitting into the ocean a couple times and things like that. But for right-handed hitters, balls out to left field, you hardly see it with the Dodgers. I don't know why. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe they'll break out of that here, but if not, they're going to have to find ways to score runs. And for some reason, I don't know, I feel like they're going to open up the run game a little bit. So we talked a lot about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the pitching situation and how the Dodgers can formulate that and going up against these Giants hitters. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar. It really is. I don't know. There's not too many things I can tell you if you're not convinced at this point. If you're a new listener, then maybe this is what you need to listen to. Built Bar, best tasting protein bar out there. It tastes like a candy bar, but it doesn't have the macros that a candy bar has, because these macros are good and good for you. Every bar has 17 to 18 grams of protein. All the bars are usually under 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams sugar, 4 to 5 grams net carbs, amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy, and all covered in chocolate. So if you love chocolate, it's perfect for you. They have a bunch of different flavors. They have rotating flavors that they add in here and there. And make sure to look out for those rotating flavors because they're usually the best flavors. But every flavor that they have is good. I've never had one that I would turn down. And you can always get a mix box and you'll get 2 of all the flavors that are on deck and try them all out, see what you like. So right now go to built.com and you can get 15% off your order with the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Want to once again thank you for making us your first listen and remind you that we are available for free on all audio platforms and on YouTube. So make sure to check us out. All right, so let's talk about the Dodgers on the other side of it and the pitching side. And for a team that played in the wild card game, the Dodgers are pretty well set up, probably about as well set up as any wild card team has been coming into the NLDS because they have Walker Buehler, who is an ace on almost any team, basically every team, and he's going game 1. And the Giants are putting out their ace in game. The Giants are putting out their ace in game 1. And in game 2, all the Dodgers have is a top 5, 6 Cy Young candidate in Julio Urias, someone that has done well against the Giants throughout the entire season and someone who has been known for coming up big in the postseason, coming off his 2020 postseason where he was not the Dodgers' savior, but was very good with the Dodgers starting and relieving. So in terms of the first 2 games, you got Walker Buehler versus Logan Webb. You got Julio versus Gausman. Now, on paper, the Dodgers have the slight advantage when it comes down to brass tacks and on the field. It's probably a lot closer than it is on paper. Gausman did struggle in the second half, but did find himself toward the end of the season and had a pretty good string of starts there. Logan Webb was good all year, but was really good his last 20 or so starts. So he's coming in. He did struggle a little bit in 2 of his last 3 starts, finishing out this season. So the potential is there. And for the Dodgers, it's one of those things where, the offense needs to wake up. The offense needs to come through. This series is not being won in a bunch of 4-3, 2-1 games because that seems to be the games the Giants thrive on and the games that the Dodgers didn't necessarily thrive on early in the season, thrived on a little bit as the season went on. It's just a game you don't want to be a part of. You want to be a part of some 6-1 games, some 7-0 games like that. And offensively, like I said, the Dodgers match up well. But on the flip side, Walker Buehler thoroughly dominated the Giants, except for the 1 start in September, which is the start we remember, which is the start where, kind of, if you break it down, that last month, that was the only time they played the Giants. They finished 1 game back, and that was a swing game where the Dodgers won a game, the Giants won a game, and then the third game came up, and Walker Buehler got rocked. And I don't expect that to happen at all. That was I think it was a fluke. I'm not gonna lie. I think that was a fluke. I think Walker Buehler, we've seen him. Other than his first postseason start, which ended up being decent after giving up a grand slam to Ronald Acuna Jr., ended up being a decent enough start. The Dodgers didn't quite come back that game, but made it close and got within a run, I believe. So other than that, all we've seen is Walker Buehler dominate, and that's going back to 2018 World Series. That goes back to 2019 in the NLDS, and that goes back to 2020 all last year. He's a guy that dials it in October. He knows what to do. He figured it out. And the other thing that is a little bit different this year than past years is he's working with a changeup now. And we've never seen Walker Buehler in October with a changeup. We've seen him with his off-speed pitches. We've seen him with the fastball. But we've never seen him with this changeup. And I think he's going to utilize it a lot more than we think. I think it's one of those where the Giants might have got comfortable against him last time and jumping on early in the counter or jumping on the fastball. And I think Walker Buehler is going to come out mixing it up because, as we saw the other day with Max Scherzer, the Dodgers realistically don't need more than 5. Like, they need 5 solid innings. They need 5 innings, less than 1 run for them to operate. But as we've seen with Buehler, he's given them 6, gone into the 7th before. But for Buehler, it's one of those where you don't want him to jump on the fastball. They're a good fastball hitting team. You want them to not know what's coming. And I think Walker Buehler is going to mix it up. That's why I think Julio does very well against him, because Julio has that changeup. Julio has that slurve curve, whatever he decides to throw that day. And then he has the fastball. And I know there was concerns about Julio's fastball with the velocity going down, but it's October. Guys are tired, yes. But when you got one game, and that might be the only game you pitch in this series, or the only time you get to pitch in a potential postseason, because if they lose, they don't play on, you're going to be amped up. You're going to have the adrenaline. You're going to be able to throw however hard you need to throw, and you're going to be able to match what you throw earlier in the year. So I'm not worried about Julio. I think, like I said, he matches up well with them. The other part, too, when it comes to the Dodgers, is Julio is the left-hander. Alex Vesia, another left-hander. Maybe Justin Brewer, David Price find their way on since they're adding pitchers. I'm sure one of them will find their way on. But the thing for me is Wilmer Flores has been one of the more annoying Giants since he's gotten there. And Wilmer Flores is the guy that mashes lefties. And I'm not quite sure how they're going to handle things over there. But the less I have to see of Wilmer Flores, which means he probably won't be in the lineup against right-handers, the better for me. Although with Brandon Belt out, they may move some guys around. The other one I just don't want to see at the plate is Lamont Wade Jr. He seems to always have good at-bats. Hopefully the Dodgers are game planning and have something that works against him, because they haven't really seemed to figure it out. Or they did figure it out, but not in key situations. And the Dodgers lineup, like I said, is solid, but the Giants lineup is very solid as well. And there's no stand out. Chris Bryant is the big name, but even then, he hasn't really lit the world on fire since going to San Francisco. Was an all-star, but we saw in the all-star game when he faced good pitching, he had a couple times to put the NL ahead, didn't come through either time, and he has big holes in his swing. He has the power. He's able to hit those doubles, hit those home runs, but he also has big strikeout potential. And for the Dodgers, they're able to they're one of the better strikeout pitching teams. And even if Walker Buehler hasn't been that guy, even if Julio hasn't been that guy, they have the stuff to be able to be that guy in any given day. And when it comes down to it, the Giants, I remember we looked at the stats last time, and it felt like they were more clutch, and they weren't more clutch than the Dodgers in some situations. I remember when I thought, okay, maybe they don't strike out as much, but they struck out a little bit more than the Dodgers, or maybe they walk a lot more. The Dodgers walk more. So their offense is kind of built on the same way as the Dodgers offense is built, which is already getting me worried about some 4 to 5 hour games, because both these teams work the count. They try to get into the bullpen, and they try to make you throw them the pitch they want you to throw. And it's going to come down to which pitchers execute their pitches better in the zone. And because realistically, both these teams aren't going to chase too much. They have guys that are pretty disciplined at the plate. Especially the Giants have guys that are pretty disciplined at the plate, and it's going to come down to executing in the strike zone. And that's where I think the Dodgers can win, because their guys have better stuff when it comes down to it. Walker Buehler has better stuff than Logan Webb. Julio has maybe not better pure stuff than Kevin Gausman, but he has a better mix than Kevin Gausman. Max Scherzer obviously has better stuff than DeSclafani. And then when it comes to Game 4, if they get that far, Tony Gonsolin and Alex Wood is a little bit more of a toss-up. Tony Gonsolin has the better pure stuff. Alex Wood probably has the better pitching arsenal, and we'll see what happens there. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to take the better stuff. Now, if their command's not there, or whatever the case is, like it was with Scherzer the other day, that's where the issues can lie. But when it comes down to it, if you're talking about pure stuff, trying to work in the zone and live in the zone, I think the Dodgers have the pitching advantage there. And then in the bullpen as well, we just saw the Dodgers bullpen, no clean innings, it wasn't a big deal, but I would have preferred to see clean innings. But the Cardinals were 0-for with runners in scoring position that day, and the Dodgers bullpen has really been, we saw it in that one game when it was 1-1 going into the ninth inning. The Dodgers scored in the ninth, that one game where they ended up losing because Will Smith had to play first base. But they were throwing guys that weren't big household names that weekend. They were throwing Andrew Vasquez in big innings, Justin Brewer in big innings, and they were able to get out. So it's one of those things where the Giants offense, yeah, they hit the most home runs, but at that park, it saps a lot of your power. Depending where the wind's blowing, it's going to be a fall day in San Francisco. The wind could be blowing in, and basically that's where fly balls go to die. So the other part too that's interesting, or that the Dodgers can take advantage now with Cody Bellinger being named the center fielder, Mookie Betts in right, and then AJ Pollock in left, which is not a big deal. Left field's the most normal of all the positions out there. The Dodgers have the outfield defense to cut down balls in the gap, to cut down balls wherever they're hit, and to, track down the baseballs that are hit out there. So with Bellinger and Mookie Betts out there, we saw them take over the NLDS last year on defense. We saw Mookie take over the NLCS on defense last year. We've seen the defense. We know they're going to come to play, and that's kind of where I get a little bit more excited as well. Going to come back, just talk about a little bit more things when it comes down to these two pretty evenly matched teams, but where the Dodgers can take advantage. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. BetOnline, yes, BetOnline.ag is back, and it's better than ever. All eyes turn to the gridiron if you're not still into postseason baseball, but you can be both. I'm a Dodger and a Raider fan, and my eyes on Sunday. Well, at least this Sunday the Dodgers won't play, so there'll be all eyes on the Raiders. So BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. They got a new updated site where you can check out the odds, check out the props, check out the contests. BetOnline is the number one source for everything football. So head to BetOnline right now on your laptop or mobile device to sign up today, and you can get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's promo code LOCKEDON for a 50% welcome bonus at BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Once again, let me thank you guys, because I really want to reiterate this, for making us your first listen in the morning. We are here every weekday morning for you, Monday through Friday. We appreciate being your first listen or your first watch on YouTube, however you choose to enjoy us. We are available free on all those platforms and on YouTube. So let's finish out just talking a couple more things here with the Giants-Dodgers series. When it comes down to it, I feel good about Dave Roberts. He managed a great game. I think he realizes how the game is now. I think he realizes postseason baseball is different than regular season baseball. Now, obviously, the wild card game was a lot different. That was do or die situation. But we've seen him in 2019 in do or die situations not necessarily make the most stat-backed up decisions. He went a little bit more with heart, specifically with the Clayton Kershaw decision in 2019 Game 5. And we didn't see them do that in 2020 when the backs were against the wall. Kenley Jansen didn't close out the biggest games last year for the Dodgers. It was Julio. He let Julio ride out in Game 7 of the NLCS. He let Julio ride out in Game 6 of the World Series. He had Blake Treinen close out Game 5 of the World Series. He had different guys here and there. Joe Kelly closed out an NLDS game against the Padres, which was more because Jansen had imploded a bit. But even though now what we know about Joe Kelly, he shouldn't have been in there either. But regardless of all that, I think Dave Roberts realizes postseason's different, and F the feelings, F the feelings. You don't have to. You built your rapport with your team over 162 games, or since mid-February when they reported. You built that rapport. This team knows you. They want to play for you. And, they're not going to get offended when something happens. We saw just in this wildcard game, Doc went out to take out Max Scherzer. He put the hand out for the ball. Max Scherzer shook his hand, and then Doc had to grab the ball from his glove. Now, Max Scherzer, we know, is an intense guy during the game. Doesn't like to be touched. Dave Roberts learned that. But after the game, in any interview Max Scherzer did, he said, he talked about that situation. He said, what, Doc knows what it takes to win a game. He knows what he wanted to do. He wanted Joe Kelly in there. He got Joe Kelly in there, and it worked out, and we won the game. These guys don't know that. These guys know that, that they're here to win games, and they're here to bring home that trophy. And, I don't think Dave Roberts worries about hurting feelings anymore, which is a good thing. So I'm excited to continue to see that and see if I'm right, and see if Jeff's mentioned it too. See if we're right. See if Dave Roberts has really changed how he manages. When it comes to Gabe Kapler, we don't know yet. We don't know. He hasn't coached or managed a game in October yet. He had his struggles in Philadelphia, but never in October. He didn't get there. This is the first time he's had it here. He's seemingly pushed all the right buttons throughout the season. But as we know, when it comes down to managers, pushing all the right buttons doesn't necessarily mean you made the right decisions. It just means it worked out. Your players backed you up. And here, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know how if Logan Webb is struggling in the fourth inning, is he's going to pull Logan Webb? We don't know yet. We're going to find out. Hopefully, we'll find out. So it's kind of a little bit of a wild card. You don't know exactly how he's going to handle the games. You don't know exactly how they're going to go about things. So it'll be interesting to learn in that sense. Hopefully, the Dodgers gave him a lot of headaches, so where he has to make tough decisions on pulling guys early and things like that. Last year, it was a little bit easier too on the Dodgers front because there's a DH all around. They didn't have to worry about, if I pull this guy, double switch and all that kind of stuff. We saw some of that stuff in the wild card game the other day. So that's the other part too. It's a little bit tougher. But Dave Roberts has already managed through that. In October, it just last year he didn't have to. So yeah, it's an evenly matched series. Obviously, the Giants winning 107 games is not a fluke, or winning 100 games is not a fluke. You can, 107, yeah, 7 of those wins the Giants had, maybe 7 would have been a little fluky. I can name the one where Avisail Garcia dropped the ball in the outfield against the Brewers, a little fluky. Darren Ruff not getting rung up, maybe a little fluky. But at the end of the day, 100 games, 107 games, it's hard to fluke that in baseball. We've never seen a team win that many games and it ended up being a fluke. Some people may bring up the 116-win Mariners, but I don't think that was a fluke. I just think that they didn't perform when it came down to it in October. And that's what the other part I'm sure to see. Yeah, some of these guys for the Giants, the older guys, they've been in October. Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, they've played in those big games in October. Chris Bryant with the Cubs. But some of these guys, they are experiencing this for the first time. And that's kind of where I think a little bit of an advantage goes on the Dodgers side, just because this team's been through it all. A lot of these guys have been through it all. Most of the core, Bellinger, Seager, Justin Turner, even Will Smith, he's been around long enough. They've been through things. They've gone through things. They know October is a little bit different, and they know how to handle themselves. Now, it's not always going to translate to success on the field, but I do think in little situations or things like that, when the teams are so evenly matched, I think little things like that could flip the series. Whether it's staying calm in a certain situation or whether it's realizing what to do or whatever the case. I mean, Trey Turner has won a World Series. Max Scherzer's won a World Series as well. So these guys are I don't want to use the cliche, but they are battle tested. They've been there before for the most part, and they know, they've been through adversity and they've been through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows when it comes to October. And it could all be for naught, but I think that's a little bit where the Dodgers have the slight advantage. I do think overall they have the pitching advantage, but it just, on paper stuff doesn't really matter. The Dodgers could have the better team, the better offense, the better pitching, and it's going to come down to who does it on the field. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And honestly, I'm excited for this series. I told people I was more concerned about the wild card game than I was about the NLDS. Now, with the major caveat being, it's a one-game playoff, so you would be more worried about one game. Dodgers lose game 1 in this series. It's not the end of the series. They got Julio in game 2. They got Scherzer in game 3. But you lose the one wild card game and you're out. So, but I think the other part too, and this is more of me projecting how I feel and me just kind of thinking it's got to be like this, right? The Giants won the regular season series 10-9. But how many of those games were, they got the right bounce at the right time? And I have a feeling that's going to even out a little bit. The Darren Ruff thing, Sheldon Noisy not extending, that's on him, but also that's a lucky bounce to a certain extent. Will Smith slightly coming off the bag. That was more, I wouldn't say that was a lucky bounce, but the fact of the matter is both teams were out of position players at that point. The Giants, had Trey Turner made a better throw or Will Smith stayed on the bag, whatever the case was, the Giants were going to have put an outfielder out in left field because one of their guys got hurt. So the fact that the ball found Will Smith before it found whatever Giants pitcher was going to play outfield the next inning, that's a little bit of luck. And the Mike Tauchman robbery of Albert Pujols, not luck. He made a good play, but man, like Mike Tauchman, really? Like he happened to be out there in left field. He's not even on the team anymore. He just happened to be out there at the right time, made that play, held on to it. There was no fans there to try to get in the way and secure the home run. So, little things like that, I feel like it's got to start bouncing in the Dodgers' favor, and that's me hoping that the baseball gods see it that way, the almighty baseball gods. So, yeah, when it comes out to it, I've predicted Dodgers in 4, I think, and which is a weird prediction because game 4 is when they have their weakest starter, but it's also when the Giants have their weakest starter. So, give and take. I think the Dodgers in 4. And honestly, I would want to say Dodgers in 3, but I know the Giants are a good team, and I know they are going to win the game. And realistically, this series is probably going 5, but for some reason, Dodgers in 4 sounds good to me. But we'll just have to wait and see. And the next time we talk, the next time we're talking with you, there'll already be 2 games out of the way, and they will be getting ready, coming back to Los Angeles for game 3. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot that happens between now and the next time we talk. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you for making us your first listen. We are there for you every weekday morning, Monday through Friday, on any podcast platform or on YouTube, and we're free. So why not check us out? Other ways to check us out, we are on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Those DMs are always open if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. He's always open to questions, comments, and concerns. You can find me on Twitter at Samperio. Same thing. I'm always open to questions, comments, and concerns. Other ways to get a hold of us, you can send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 323-863-LOCK. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. Now, make sure to make your second listen Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. He brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's also free and also available on all platforms. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.